Welcome back to Listen Up Podcast at Grace Christian University, where we take deep dives into student lives.
Hello, thanks for tuning in today to Listen Up Podcast. We're excited for the show we have planned for you today. Before we get going, we have some announcements for you. This week, we have a recruitment for the blood drive that is happening between 11:15 and 12:45 p.m. on Tuesday. The actual blood drive is happening on the 21st. Also this week, at the tail end of the week, we're super excited. First of all, we're excited for our baseball team here at Grace, but we are having a baseball tailgate, and it's happening Friday at 1:15 p.m. at Lamar Park, and the game starts at 2 o'clock. We are playing Muskegon Community College, and there will be food, yard games, supplies to make signs to root on the players, and more. So meet in front of the Commons at 1 o'clock if you'd like to take the GCU band to the game. This week is going to be off the heezy. We're super excited for it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today, or actually he is going to introduce himself. What is your name, sir?
Yeah, I'm Rowe, and I'm a senior here at Grace Christian University.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
So before we really get started, I just want to know a little bit about what's going on in your life at this moment.
Yeah, so I'm just finishing out my senior year. Living off campus, just like slowly detaching from the bubble here because I'm pretty attached, and so it's going to be difficult once I leave. So living off campus and commuting, but still being involved with work and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
How is living off campus compared to living on campus?
It's a little more difficult because you really gotta take initiative to be involved when you're living off campus, and when you're on campus, it's just a lot easier to be involved with your friends and just go to the gym for like a basketball game, or just go down the soccer field and watch soccer. Whereas like the commuter, like you have to like make the effort to go to those things.
So how did you find out about Grace?
Yeah. So it was in 2017. I came here on a tour with some friends, wasn't expecting to go into college. I was just hanging out with my friends, and they were on a tour, and Hillary Vay, the enrollment specialist, was giving the tour at the time, and she had asked me like, hey, are you thinking about coming here too? And I said, no, but I really like it here. Like, you're really nice, and it just like already feels like home kind of thing. And she asked me like, would I consider coming? I said, yeah, but I don't know if I can because, well, I have a 0.979 GPA from high school, and like it took me an extra 2 years to graduate. And so she said, well, if you really want to come, I can set you up in a meeting with Dr. Rumley and Miss Dawn. And so this was in August, so there was like a month left until orientation. And so Hillary like worked really hard to get me to come here and just have a meeting with Dr. Rumley and Miss Dawn, not even knowing if I was able to come here. And I got accepted with a 0.979 from high school, which was really cool. They accepted me right on the spot. So that's how I heard about Grace.
Okay. And what are you studying?
I'm studying interdisciplinary with a concentration in ministry and communication.
Did you originally go for that?
No, I originally came in as worship arts for some reason, then changed it a bunch of times, like human services and pastoral. And I was like, okay, I just need to get a degree, and I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just going to take a bunch of electives and see what I like and what I don't like.
And what do you find yourself gravitating towards now?
Well, it's between still like pastoral type stuff or ministry, but also like library science. Because I've been working here at the library with Aaron, going on my 4th year, and I just interned at Cornerstone's Miller Library doing the social media internship. And so I've been given a lot of experience with that, and I love learning new things and love helping people. So the two go together really well.
That's really cool. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper into your life. So where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm from Gladwin, Michigan. It's like 2.5 hours north. It's surrounded by like Midland, Bay City, Mount Pleasant, and Saginaw. Yep.
Are there any well-known people from Gladwin other than Ryan Rowe?
Well, yeah. Some of my high school teachers that have had a big impact in my life, and then there's also NF, known as Nate Firestein, is from Gladwin as well, and really cool. Like when I came to Grace, I didn't know that his producer Tommy Prophet graduated from Grace, so just a really interesting connection. And I just really love Nate's music. There's a cool story. When I was in 8th grade in junior high, he was a senior in high school. He was on the basketball team, and in the summertime, every Sunday at 6, a big group of us would go to the city park and play basketball. And he'd be there. This was before like he was big or anything like that. And so one night, around 9 o'clock at night, we were finishing up playing basketball, and some guys stuck around and they were like, "Hey Nate, rap for us." So he pulled up his like brown car, and I got inside and I was in the middle seat, and he started freestyling to the instrumental beat of Mockingbird by Eminem. And this was before I was Christian or anything like that, and he didn't swear or anything in his music. And just like, although like he like never directly talked to me, that was like a big impact in my life. And so that was really cool, and it's given me a lot of hope of seeing him come from like my small farm town, and like him being a Christian, and just like his music like influencing my life, because I love listening to music. And so it's been a big inspiration for me to have like a similar family background to him. Not the same, but pretty similar. And just trying to come to something from nothing has just been really inspiring.
So you touched on it a little bit, but what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I grew up in a non-Christian home. I mean, when I was younger, my grandmother had a little bit of Christian influence in my life, but after she had passed away, my parents weren't Christian, and my siblings weren't either. I'm the youngest of 4, and so like dad was verbally abusive. Mom like was like zoned out like quite often. Parents were never really involved in our life. We had our physical needs met, but never like our emotional needs or anything like that were met. So I was always told to go outside and play. So I'd go play basketball or skateboard or ride my bike or something like that. So parents were never like really involved, and it was just like not safe to be home. So I would leave, and like similar to like Nate's family, like being involved, like his mom, like with drugs and things like that. Like my family was pretty involved with that too. So it's very relatable again and inspiring. And yeah, it was just nice to like have music to connect to through those tough times and things like that.
So other than music, how did you deal with the stress of all that?
Yeah, so I would go around and like I'd go sit like in the coffee shop or at the McDonald's and write, like journal and things like that. And that was like a big thing for me, just like get away from home and not have to like deal with the stress there.
So you found journaling to be helpful for you?
Yeah.
And where did you get the idea to start journaling about that?
It was actually in 4th grade. My teacher, Mrs. Plyman, like gave us like writing journals and everything like that. And I got really excited about it. And I just wrote all the time. It was like my favorite time in class was to write, because she made it a lot of fun. And like one day, or like every Friday, she would like have us like go to the computer lab and play games if we had all of our homework done. And I was always overlooked because I always had my homework done, but only a certain amount of kids could go to the computer lab to play games on Friday. And so I wrote in my journal, "Dear mean Mrs. Plyman, you never let me go to the computer lab to play games, although I get my homework done." And I showed it to her, and as a 4th grader, I was like terrified, not knowing what she was going to think. And she looked up at me and smiled and let me go to the computer lab and play video games. So like for me, that was like a big confidence booster.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where like I got my love for writing and learned that I can express myself through that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So other than that experience, what aspects of your childhood do you still think about today?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of it is just like hanging out with friends. Yeah, if that's going again, like going to the city park and playing basketball, or going to the skate park and skateboarding, the student activities, and like those are like the good memories that I have of Gladwin and growing up.
What were your high school years like?
Yeah, so it took me. I never did well in high school. I was the kid that was known for like putting my head down on the desk every day, just not caring about life, or like what was happening. I was just really depressed from like stuff that was going on at home, and so I was never engaged in school. And so then I ended up like finding my group like with the potheads and everything like that, and found myself like smoking marijuana. Then I ended up getting in trouble with that one time, and then kind of found out like, okay, these people like aren't my friends kind of thing. And so like I stopped doing that, and was just kind of like alone again. And then like I had like a good time, like where like I did well in school for a little while, and then just went back to being the kid to put my head down on the desk again. And then there was time like where I became a Christian in 2015, which was supposed to be my graduating year. And that's when my life was turned around and I ended up graduating high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you go a little bit into how you came to Christ and how that changed your life?
Yeah. So my librarian at high school, going back to library science, like I always went to the library as well because it was like a quiet space to be and like get away from people and like the busyness, and where I could like miss out on class and no one would know because I could just escape into the library. And she said, "Hey Ryan," and I didn't know she was Christian at the time, and I ended up finding out later on that she was. And she said, "Hey Ryan, if you get your grades up, you can volunteer in the library." And I was like, "Oh, no way!" Like there was no one like volunteering in the library, so like that made me feel special. And so and it's like that idea of being called into something that gave my life purpose. Because I didn't realize it then, but looking back, like I realized I didn't feel like I had a purpose or like meaning or anything like that. So that was like a big impact on my life, and probably why I love library so much. And so I ended up volunteering in the library, got my grades up a little bit, not too high, but just enough. And then there were some other volunteers that just started, and so I had all these like deep philosophical and theological questions happening inside of me because of like what was going on at home between my mom and dad, like getting ready to like split apart and things like that.
Wow. And
so my friend that I was working with invited me to their youth group and check it out, and I'd never been to church before. And so I was like really skeptical going in, and then I kept going back, and then I went to a fine arts festival with the youth group, and I never felt like that kind of energy from the youth group or like from kids my age. And I was like, "Whoa, this is like super cool." And at the fine arts festival, I just asked the youth leader a bunch of questions, and he asked me, "Do you think like all your questions are just getting in the way of what you really want to believe?" So that made me think for a second and reflect. And I just saw like everything that was happening in my life, and like how like God was leading me like to the youth group and everything like that. And I was like, okay, like I believe, like what do I do next? And he prayed with me, and I accepted forgiveness from Christ. And yeah, and then my parents ended up splitting apart right after I became Christian, and my mom up and left to North Carolina and said I couldn't go with her, and I had just turned 18 at this point in life. And my dad was in West Virginia with his aunt, and I didn't want to go live with my dad. And so I had nowhere to go. And then my 10th grade physical science teacher, Mrs. McCauley, came to me one day in her class that I was retaking, and she said, "Hey Ryan, I heard about your situation. I've noticed that you've like had your head up more lately, and I heard that you became a Christian. Would you like to live with me and my family and go to church with us?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Whoa!" Like I wasn't even like expecting that. It was just like presented to me, and I've just come to realize like things like that are presented to me, just like that are from God, just like take them because it's worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say you were following prior to following Jesus?
Ooh, that's a good question. I was really big into this card game called Magic the Gathering. I was playing it competitively, and that was, I would go to like Grand Prix tournaments or like Star City Games Opens and play competitively, and that was pretty much my life. Like I'd study the cards and everything, and that consumed my life pretty much because it helped me like escape from like reality and like give me something fun to do. And a lot of my friends I hung out with played it, and yeah, so I'd say I was following that.
So what made you realize that Jesus was the right choice to make?
Yeah, just going back to like at the hotel room at the Fine Arts Festival, and like seeing everything that was happening back in like my life, and just like experiencing God at youth group and everything like that, and at this Fine Arts Festival was just very impactful. And so I'd just say like that, and after like accepting Christ, like I had like a moment of like I was crying and everything, and I didn't know why, and I just felt comfortable in that peace. So that felt real to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So along with the Christian life, it's good to have people around you supporting you. And who would you say someone in your life who has made an impact in your life?
Yeah, that's another really good question, because there's been so many people in my life that have like positively impacted it. So I feel kind of bad for leaving a lot of people out, but they know who they are. But someone that's here right now that has had a big impact in my life is my mentor and friend, John Young. Yeah. And he's just been there with me through a lot of stuff, and has like asked me tough questions and has called me out and on things, and has been there to support me. And so it's just nice to have like a friend in my life that has always been there through like thick and thin or whatever it is. So yeah, thanks, John.
So did you seek out a mentor? Yeah,
I did. So my friend at the time, Joseph Krasmeyer, had invited me out to a dinner with his friends, and it was like a Brazilian dinner, so it was really cool. And John was cooking the steak, and then John actually goes to Grace Bible Fellowship, which is like the church that I started going to. And so I met John at this dinner or whatever, and I said, "Hey, would you want to be my mentor?" Because like I was seeking out like a mentor, especially like in Dr. Sam's class, and like Pastor Rick always saying like, "Hey, like get a mentor," kind of thing. And I was like, I felt like I needed to do that, and it's been like extremely helpful for me in my growth at Grace.
So what would you say makes a good mentor?
Yeah. I mean, like someone that's always going to be there, and it's a two-way street. It's not like only you seeking it out, but it's also them like seeking it out too. But it's mainly the mentee that does the seeking out if they want that growth. And so what makes a good mentor is someone that's going to ask you challenging questions, that's going to point you towards God. And they're not always going to give you the answers too, which makes a good mentor, knowing when to help you out and when not to help you out, because not helping you out is also helping you like think for yourself. So I think, and it's like having fun adventures too. Yeah.
What are some of those adventures?
Well, I won't get too much into detail, but there's this time we picked up this guy, and he was like, he needed to go to the Secretary of State, and he showed John his slip. And he's like, "Hey, can I get a ride?" And John was like, "Yeah, come on, get in the truck." And the guy is like in the back of the truck yelling like at his phone for the GPS, like, "Secretary of State, Centerpoint Mall," and it was just like really funny and yeah. So that's a good adventure. And then we went all the way out to Arizona to go pick up his car for his birthday, and then drove it back in 3 days, like at the end of like my spring break 3 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, so we went through like 7 states. It did not do well in the Colorado snow because it sits so low to the ground. Yeah, then we like took a lot of like naps in Walmart parking lots at night, and yeah, so it was just a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, those are memories you probably will never forget.
yeah,
So it's amazing that you got to experience those with your mentor.
yeah.
That's really cool. So what would your life look like if you didn't have a mentor?
Yeah. So I mean, I probably wouldn't be growing as much, and like it's helped me a lot, like with like John asking me challenging questions like all the time can be a little exhausting, but it's helped me like think for myself and like gain a lot of confidence and be able to like think for myself and like yeah, like assert myself in situations and things like that. And like John and I being completely different of personalities, of like him being an extrovert, like a big extrovert, and me being like an introvert, has like brought me out of my shell a lot and like how to be more extroverted and things like that.
So based on what you said earlier on in the conversation about who you were growing up in Gladwin, Michigan, fan of NF, rapping with him in a car, listening to him rap in a car, and now Ryan Rowe about to graduate. How have you changed from that moment, or even, you could even fast forward, the first time you stepped on Grace to where you're at now?
Yeah. So like how I've changed since like being a freshman at Grace to now?
Yeah.
Okay. Another really good question. Yeah, I'd say I was a lot more quiet. Didn't trust many people when I first came. And then like I had no idea how to do college or anything like that. And I ended up almost failing my freshman year, and now like having like so much support in my life has helped me like with my growth of like coming from this quiet kid that stayed to himself, that didn't really trust anybody, to being open and like being more like extroverted and hanging out with people and socializing and just being more joyful. Yeah, I don't have much detail right now, but yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. So before we conclude, Ryan is going to drop a truth bomb.
Yeah, so this is just like some advice. Okay. So this is just for the students here at Grace, and something that like I've learned from my life. So take the opportunities that God gives you and work hard at everything you do for God. Don't waste opportunities that God gives you, and take full advantage of them. You gotta want it and stay hungry. You also gotta be vulnerable with people that will challenge and support you, such as faculty and staff at Grace, or if that's even people like outside of Grace. But it takes initiative on your part. If you want it, then don't expect a handout or for it to come to you. Like you gotta go get it yourself. That goes with like with anything in life. So here's a little something I wrote. Why don't you work hard? Ecclesiastes says the meaning of life is to work, which is meaningless, but it's a part of our purpose. You have skill and talent, but why don't you take full advantage of your potential and make a change in the world? I'm not as smart as most people, but I still work hard because I gotta make it. I made a promise to myself to stay alive and give it all I got to God and others. We can work to work, but we can work to change, and we can change to work, and we can work to love. If we have the opportunity, why not make the most of it rather than let it wash to waste in the vastness of a repressed and internalized space?
Wow. Thank you for that, Ryan.
Yep.
Well, that concludes today's episode. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to listen up. Thank you for listening. If you would like to be a part of our live audience, recordings take place Mondays at 1:30 p.m. in the Quiet Room. If you would like to be a guest on our show, send us an email at listenup@gracechristian.edu. See you next week on the Listen Up podcast.